All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA podcast. My name is Keith, here for a bonus episode. Enough Memphis Grizzlies news has piled up, and some of it seems like it should be addressed immediately. And with the holidays, taking it easy, not doing any solo podcast, I figured we could just give you a little tiny update before the full show with John and Chuck on Thursday. Grizzlies news, first of all, if you're in the Nashville area, must remind you, we're having a watch party on Friday, this coming Friday, January 4th, at the Mainstay Nashville over on Main Street. The watch party is for the Nets game at 7 p.m., we will be giving away lots of Grizzlies prizes. The baby dungeon right now is overrun with Grizzlies prizes. It's actually out of control. We have a bunch of scarves and lunch boxes and Gasol figurines and Grizzlies wrestling shirts. It's crazy. So we'll be giving away a ton of prizes. If you're anywhere close to Nashville, come on down to the Mainstay on Friday at 7 p.m. for the Nets game. Also, your first drink is free, courtesy of Fast Break Breakfast. So hopefully you guys will come out and hang out with me, John, and Chuck. All right, Memphis Grizzlies, and let's keep this brief. They've been having some issues playing Jaren Jackson Jr. Most recently, it came to a head in a game against the Boston Celtics, where the Grizzlies put up one of their finest first halves of this season, and we're running the Celtics out of the building. Then it got weird, as this habit has been reoccurring, where JB Bickerstaff doesn't play Jaren Jackson Jr. I've been tweeting about it all year. Months ago, made the joke, my controversial take is Jaren Jackson Jr. should close all games. And it seems like after the Brooklyn Nets game, where we've celebrated that he scored 7 points in 10 seconds or whatever it was, had the 4-point play and then the tying three-pointer. He made some miraculous superstar-level plays. In that game, I think he ended up with 36 points. After that game, most fans were like, this guy is legitimately a unicorn. He is one of the Grizzlies' best offensive players, and what he just did was magical. Let's just see how much more he can do. Let's just give him the ball and see what happens. Why are we running these lineups where we're struggling to score, we're having a tough time, and not even trying to use this transcendent 19-year-old talent? Like, what's the worst can happen? Why are we losing games with journeymen who are on one-year deals when we have guys signed through the next, hopefully, 7-8 years, and Jaren Jackson Jr. sitting on the bench? So I feel like almost every Grizzlies fan feels this way. Like, just leave him out there. If we lose, no one's going to be angry if we go down with Jaren Jackson Jr. If Jaren Jackson Jr. fouls out, no one is going to be upset. But still, Bickerstaff keeps claiming, he's doing these moves to win the game. He's making the decision that he thinks will win the game, and he's addicted to these mediocre veterans, much like Dave Yeager was addicted to mediocre veterans. Lots of NBA coaches have been, but it is so striking now. Things have gotten so out of control with this that it's come to a fever pitch, and I don't know how it can't be addressed on some level. I mean, the fan base is screaming for Bickerstaff to be fired. I don't think there's any way he gets fired just because the Grizzlies aren't going to do that. They're not going to, pay another coach, first of all. I just think that's not really something they have any interest in doing. But I do feel like the owner, Robert Pera, who has claimed he's more hands-on after he closed that whole buy-sell thing and now owns the team outright with nothing looming over his head, seems like he would say something, because it is so obvious. In that Celtics game, Jaren Jackson Jr. leaves the game with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. The team is up 14 at that point. He only plays 87 more seconds. The lead completely disappears by the time they put him back in. He plays he has an offensive possession where he gets fouled and he hits a free throw. And then Al Horford does a number on him. Like, Al Horford scores on him pretty easily, made him look like a rookie. Al Horford is a multiple-time All-Star who was very, very good and a veteran. he's going to trick Jaren Jackson Jr. sometimes. So Al Horford like embarrasses him to a little bit, and JB Bickerstaff yanks him out. And the Grizzlies end up losing by 9. So this is a game they were up 14. They played him 87 more seconds over the final 17 minutes of the game. And the Grizzlies lose another game where they were up huge. They were up 19. They were also up 19 against the Sacramento Kings. He checks out of that game with, let me see. He left that game with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Grizzlies are up 9. He doesn't even play again, and the Grizzlies lose. So this is 2 of the most recent losses where they were up big and lost it. And once again, Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't on the bench. I know Nate Duncan in the offseason, he said that he thought JB Bickerstaff was the worst coach in the NBA. I didn't really believe it. I thought JB Bickerstaff was just fine. JB Bickerstaff, outside of game situations, he says all the right things. He seems very intelligent. Anytime he's talking about basketball, it sounds like all the stuff that I guess we NBA Twitterati and intelligentsia wants to hear. You know, it sounds like he knows what he's doing. Maybe it's stage fright. Maybe he freaks out during these games. Another issue during the games is the Grizzlies seem to be running out of timeouts all the time, going into the fourth quarter or going into the last minute of the fourth quarter. And the Grizzlies are just out of timeouts. That seems to happen a bunch. I don't know how to look it up. I think I have to look like play-by-play data for every game, which I'm not going to do. But it seems like they're always running out of timeouts. I know the players like them. They've gotten buy-in, you know, from Mike and Mark, which is the most important thing. And like, I guess I trust them as player development to bring this team along. But I also go back to opening night. Opening night, they started Chandler Parsons at the 3. They started JaMychal Green at the 4. Kyle Anderson and Jaren Jackson Jr., which going into the opening night, my opinion was those are 2 of the 4 best players on the Grizzlies. Those guys didn't check into the game until 5 minutes left in the first quarter, and they hardly played at all. Dylan Brooks that night didn't play very much on opening night. So my opening night takeaway, and everyone in Grizzlies land like freaked out because the Pacers destroyed the Grizzlies. And my thought was, wow, JB Bickerstaff has no idea who the talented players are, and this is just bizarre. After that, obviously the Grizzlies got off to a great start, and they're still having a decent season. Like, after everything and after all this consternation over the coaching, they're still at 500, and to some people, it's kind of like found money. Like, oh, I didn't think we'd be this good, or this is about as good as I thought we would be, so I can't get too upset about it. But I don't know how to... I'm split a little bit. I'm so outraged over these last couple blown games. Like, they lost to the Rockets, which was no big deal. The Rockets are playing very well right now. The Rockets are a more talented team. There's something to be said that the Rockets didn't have Chris Paul and played a bunch of weird guys in that game. Only 5 guys scored, or only 5 guys hit shots for the Rockets. So it was a very strange game in that way. You don't want to lose, but James Harden was otherworldly, setting his career high with free throw attempts at 27 free throw attempts. And again, I'm not worked up about the foul calls. I'm not even worked up about the James Harden free throws. In that game against the Rockets, I assumed they were lose just because the Rockets were playing well. But then in the first half, Bickerstaff plays all 13 players in the first half, which is just crazy. It is just grasping at straws. And it wasn't like the game was completely out of control. The Rockets had a great first quarter. James Harden hit a bunch of threes. And it wasn't like a 20-point game immediately. I mean, it got to be a 20-point game. But it just seemed like stick with your game plan. Stick with the guys who you know are good. But he didn't. He went with 13 guys. He brought in Joakim Noah, which I don't think has any role against a team like the Rockets. I know he had those great first couple games, like the Pelicans game especially, but I still would rather see Ivan Rabb play. I've seen no evidence that Ivan Rabb is worse than Joakim Noah. The last 2 times we saw Ivan Rabb, he looked great. In the Lakers game, he came in, had a very positive impact. So I'm confused by the whole thing. He settled down, Bickerstaff settled down in the second half of the Rockets game and like shortened the rotation. And they played fine, but I'm still lost. Right now, if you look at the Grizzlies roster, I don't think it's controversial. You have 4 good players. You have Mike, you have Mark, you have Kyle Anderson, and you have Jaren Jackson Jr. everything should be done with those guys. Those guys should be your focal points. You should be finding ways to get them involved. You should be finding them ways to initiate offense. Kyle Anderson is still underused as a creator, as a point forward. One good thing for Bickerstaff is I think he finally realized that after the beginning of the season. He's stuck with the starting lineup. The starting lineup is correct. Mike Conley, Garrett Temple, Kyle Anderson, Jaren Jackson Jr., Marc Gasol. JB Bickerstaff should get credit for sticking with that 5-man starting lineup because it started off scoring terribly. It was one of the lowest scoring 5-man units that was getting serious playing time in the entire NBA. For a while there, I think their offensive rating was 90 points per 100 possessions, but he stuck with it. And I was glad for that because I think that is the best 5-man combination of players. I think those are the best 5 players on the Grizzlies. I tweeted that to Chris Harrington of the Daily Memphian. He pushed back a little. He hopes maybe Dillon Brooks is better than Garrett Temple. I don't believe Dillon Brooks is better than Garrett Temple. I think clearly the Grizzlies' 5 best players is that starting unit. But the problem is, he's not closing games with this 5-man unit. That 5-man unit, the Grizzlies starters, Conley, Temple, Anderson, Jackson, and Gasol, that 5-man unit is now up to the 3rd best unit in the NBA, in the entire league on net rating. So of all the teams, all the 5-man units that have played, I think it's 200 minutes together. So the 5-man units that are the most used in the NBA, that one is now the 3rd best statistically. So it seems clear, let's close with this lineup. Also, Andy Bailey from the Hardwood Knocks podcast was putting out all his 3-man, 2-man lineups. The Grizzlies' worst 3-man lineup, as far as net rating, it isn't that surprising. It's Marc Gasol, Shelvin Mack, and Garrett Temple. Shelvin Mack should barely be playing. It's outrageous. To put in Javon Carter and to have him play pretty well and then still never go back to him, it's just kind of weird. And to be clear, I still don't believe in Javon Carter. I think Shelvin Mack is a better player than Javon Carter. But, Shelvin Mack, his contract's up after this year. I'm fine with putting Javon Carter in these games. Let's just see what he has. I'd rather default to playing the younger guys who are under contract. But anyway, the worst 3-man unit for the Grizzlies is Marc Gasol, Shelvin Mack, Garrett Temple, which is like getting tons and tons of fourth quarter minutes. There's something you can think about. Yes, you're playing the opponent's best lineups in those situations, and so that's why it's going to be harder. But my thinking is when the game slows down, that 5-man Grizzlies starting unit is going to be even better than it is to open games. I feel like, I don't know if there's stats that the game officially slows down, but I feel like the Grizzlies have had a bunch of wins where they don't allow their opponents to score hardly at all over the last 5 minutes. That Pelicans game, there was a Blazers game where they did it, and the Lakers game where they just shut things down. It should be noted that Pelicans game, I think it's almost a month ago, that was the last time the Grizzlies won a game where Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't close the game. Right now, if you want to look at which games Jaren Jackson Jr. closed, you go to ESPN's Grizzlies schedule, and they've conveniently placed a green W besides all the games that Jaren Jackson Jr. Has closed and not JaMychal Green. So it's crazy. The best 3-man lineup for the Grizzlies right now is, and it isn't that hard to figure out, it matches up with the eye test, it's Mike Conley, Kyle Anderson, and Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. has gone from a negative plus minus, a negative net rating, to being one of the best on the team. He is the best, I think is the 4th best defensive rating in the entire NBA in the last 2 months. Jaren Jackson Jr., everything is going up for him. All the numbers are pointing up. You just have to play him. And this is as frustrated as I've been as a Grizzlies fan. It doesn't equal not trading Tyreke Evans last year at the trade deadline, which was extreme ire. But watching them blow this game against the Celtics, not playing their best players, was probably as upset as I've been for a Grizzlies loss in a very long time. I couldn't get over it. I was texting with John. He's same way. Like, we don't get that upset over Grizzlies losses anymore. We're old. We've seen a lot of basketball. We have other things in our lives. But man, I was so worked up. I couldn't get over it. So I hope the team's learning. The positive side is, hey, Jaren Jackson Jr. is still amazing. He's going to be around for a while, but JB Bickerstaff, you got to start playing him more. It's outrageous. Moving on to some other Grizzlies news. Jarnell Stokes, welcome back. A draft pick of the Grizzlies, as I'm sure you remember, where they traded to get him with, I think, the 35th pick a few years ago. As my 90-year-old grandmother said, he's pretty slow. That was her assessment of him when she watched him play a little bit. Yeah, he's an undersized center who can't shoot. I don't know why the Grizzlies are collecting more centers who can't shoot. I don't know what the point of him being on the team. The only thing I can come up with is it sells tickets in Whitehaven, where the Memphis Hustle plays. Also, this feels like maybe a old school coaching tactic or from the school of Jim Boylan. Jarnell Stokes is being brought in to toughen up Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe to show him some good practice techniques, because maybe there's something more to the story. Maybe the way Jaren Jackson Jr. practices, it's annoying the coaches. Maybe there's more to it. There's a reason why they're not playing a guy who's clearly more talented than the other Grizzlies players. And so maybe Jarnell Stokes is brought in to shake things up. Also, Grizzlies news, Chandler Parsons is reportedly healthy, and his agent has expressed frustration that the Grizzlies aren't allowing him to play. Bunch of weird stuff here. I mean, if you know our show, you know I don't think Chandler Parsons should be playing or be a part of the Grizzlies' plans because you just can't plan on him, and they have plenty of other good players, like Omri Caspi. Omri Caspi is way better than Chandler Parsons. He's also way better than a bunch of guys who are playing. Omri Caspi is part of a unit I would like to see play more. He's one of those few guys I actually want to see play. I'll tell you, I think I started this thought earlier and didn't finish. The Grizzlies, I think, that should play. There's the four good players: Conley, Gasol, Slomo, JJJ. Then there are two okay players: Garrett Temple, who completes the starting lineup, and Omri Caspi. I think Omri Caspi needs to be playing on this team, and he's just an afterthought. He's still one of the few guys on the team with a positive net rating, and that matches up with watching the games. Every time Caspi is in, granted, it's usually against second units, but he knows how to play. He's cutting, he's moving, he's one of the few guys who can throw entry passes on the team. So like Caspi should play. So that's six players. You have two okay players, Temple and Caspi, and then you have the four good players, and then you have three guys who I think are maybe okay, and that's JaMychal Green, Dylan Brooks, and Shelvin Mack. Yes, I'm including Shelvin Mack in this. That's 9 players. You can make your lineup out of those 9 players. Then if you need to play other guys, you can go to the rest of the lineup, and I would rather default give those minutes to younger guys. Like, I don't want to see Marshawn Brooks play. I think Marshawn Brooks is maybe the worst player on the Grizzlies. I still don't want to see Joakim Noah play, even though he surprised me with his first 2 games. Like, play Wayne Selden. He's been coming on just fine. He still can't hit a 3, but he's been playing fine. Like, if you need some few minutes on a wing, Wayne Selden. If you need a few minutes at a backup big that JaMychal Green can't cover, okay, Ivan Rabb, come in. Like, that's it. I don't think we need any more of these guys to be playing. Joakim Noah doesn't need to play. Chandler Parsons doesn't need to play. Marshawn Brooks doesn't need to play. So I feel like you have 9 guys. You can make it work. If you want to put Javon Carter in some, that's fine. You can have that opinion, and let's get him some game preparation. But I'm fine with Shelvin Mack being better, but not 28 minutes better. Like, he should not be playing 28, 30 minutes like he has in several games this year. Shelvin Mack play 15 minutes. Let Garrett Temple, Kyle Anderson handle the ball some. Like that they can work at spot minutes of not having even a true point guard out there, because Grizzlies point guards don't really create. They don't pass. I mean, Mike Conley is not a very good passer. So I just think those are the guys you should play. Anyway, back to Chandler Parsons. This with his agent saying, Parsons is ready and disappointed he can't get in the game. This is fair and what was always going to happen. I think at this point, the Grizzlies are done with Chandler Parsons. And so the thing is they just leave him out. Every injury report says he's out with return from injury management, which is just a made-up phrase, I guess, to make it not have any problems with the players union. Maybe Chandler Parsons' agent will go to the players union, but the way this ends is hopefully Chandler Parsons agrees to give back some of his money that's guaranteed for next season. He's not going to get waived. He might get waived, but he's not going to get stretched. Not going to do anything weird there. I doubt they have a chance to trade him unless they want to take on some real bad salary moving forward. But I think this is just the steps of make Parsons unhappy, and eventually he'll decide he wants to get out. I mean, they asked him to go to the Memphis Hustle with an undesignated number of games. Just say, hey, go there and prove you're healthy, to which he declined. And I think it's totally within his rights to decline. Veterans can't be sent down unless they choose to. And without a specific number of games, it made sense to Parsons to not do it. Because also we know he's not going to be healthy. It's too bad. Parsons is doing a little PR thing now with he's paying for... He made a donation to some Memphis area charities for, I think, paying utility bills. But the Parsons chapter is over in Memphis. They're going to move on. I've moved on, and the Grizzlies should. And speaking of moving on, I guess last thing, I got word from our boy Casey Chenard with the Hawks that John Hollinger was at a Hawks-Cavs game, which is a little weird because the Grizzlies don't play the Hawks or Cavs anytime soon. So maybe... there could be some trade stuff working. I talked all off season about being okay with a Kent Bazemore trade. There's a bunch of tradable guys on those teams. You would assume a Jordan Clarkson is available. J.R. Smith, they want to move. With the Hawks, Dwayne Dedman is probably available if the Grizzlies need yet another center. So there's a lot of movable pieces on those teams. So I guess keep your eyes open. As far as matching salary, it's kind of hard. I want the Grizzlies to trade away JaMychal Green for some help, but there's no clear salary matches unless you add in more people. I think it would take Temple and JaMychal Green together to match a Bazemore salary or to match a J.R. Smith salary. So just keep your eyes open. Maybe there's even some buyout talks with those players, and maybe that's what Hollinger was doing. Or maybe Hollinger was just in Atlanta for the holidays and catching a game. Well, anyway, that's enough Grizzlies ranting. I hope you enjoyed it. The full episode talking about the whole league will be up on Thursday afternoon with John and Chuck. And remember, Nashville people, come to that watch party on Friday at 7 p.m. at the Mainstay. If you want more of our stuff, you get that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, you guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fast break, man. You understand?